Hello, everyone. Welcome to week two of your course. I do hope that week one went well and that you were able to derive much benefit from what you read online. Just a reminder that each week there are a set of requirements, the first of which is to watch this introductory video. The second requirement for the week, like it was last week, was that you read a section online, and this time it's 2.0 to 2.5 particularly. I would encourage you to spend a great deal of time going over these sections, perhaps more than once, going over each of the videos, the exercises, listening intently to what the presenter has to offer. Bear in mind that this is a largely online course, so it's really important that you spend the requisite amount of time looking at the online material. I've seen that some of you have sent your paragraph around the conflict that you've chosen and how you hope to intervene. If you haven't as yet sent that, please do make sure that you send that soon. I am also hoping that I hear from some of you by email, that you send an email, talk about anything that you need. We do have a synchronous session coming up, the session after next. I also encourage you to continue to work on your PowerPoint. What I would do later this week is email you each a PowerPoint from students in the year gone by, to look at how they have approached the intervention and the conflict they've chosen and how they've developed their PowerPoint. This would simply be to guide you in the process of developing your own PowerPoint presentation. So, in week two, what do we hope to achieve when you look at 2.0 to 2.5? Essentially, we're looking at the burdens of violence, and we're going to be looking at how we assemble a set of peace-building tools. One of the core things that we're going to learn in week two is how we differentiate between long-term and short-term acts of violence. We hope that you get to understand a range of examples about the burdens of long-term violence, what impact this can have in a community. How do you develop a set of recommendations to work around it? I'm hoping also that you'd learn a bit about what we call DDR, disarmament, demilitarization, and reintegration. And you get to understand the importance of a tool like dialogue. And I think perhaps a central pivot in all of this is understanding the importance of local communities when responding to violence. If we think about many violent contexts around the world, from parts of Central Africa to South Africa to Bosnia and to many other parts of the world, engaging the local has always been important. Attaching importance to local knowledge, talking to communities, talking to religious leaders, all of these are really important pivots in addressing violence. So when we talk about strategic peace building and the long-term or the long-term and short-term acts of violence, and when we start to think about the burden that this presents, I think one of the things we need to think about as we're going over the material for week two is how a generation or two become impacted by this violence and how they see little else in terms of alternatives to socioeconomic, to political change. And if they've been beset by violence, they see very little in terms of alternatives. You'll also be interested to learn in the material you have online is the case cited in Bosnia, how the trauma of violence affects young people particularly. And I think there's a really interesting example cited in your online material. So peace building requires patience, it requires a perspective, and you also get to learn in week 2 that there are winners and losers. And in developing a response to those acts of violence and conflict, it's important that we seek to engage winners and losers directly in our peace building process. We're also going to be learn about handling violence in new ways. We would learn about how some people become accustomed to violence and don't see alternatives. And you learn about some of the dynamics around what we call spoilers, those who don't want to see peace given a chance, and that can emerge on, different sides of factions involved in fighting. And what's emphasized again in week 2 is what I spoke about earlier. It's about eliciting a plan from locals, and the material in week 2 talks fairly substantially about how good peace builders always look to elicit information from local players. How do they engage local knowledge? I think not only in peace building but in various aspects of governance, what we need to avoid is a technocratic approach where people who come in, bureaucrats who come in, NGO players who come in, think that they have the answers and think that they know what communities want. A really important part of building an effective peace building model is to value local knowledge, and that will be one of the focal points of week 2. Do continue to work on your PowerPoints. Do remember to send your paragraph around the conflict that you've chosen and how you hope to intervene. And I look forward to hearing from you by email. And if not, look forward to the next session where I upload a video, and look forward to our synchronous session that would be coming up. Thank you very much and enjoy your week, and I hope that you have a productive week learning about peace building.